John was driving through the countryside on a stormy night. The rain was pouring down, and the wind was howling. Suddenly, his car came to a halt, and he realized that something was wrong. He got out of the car and tried to see if he could fix it, but it was no use. He was stranded in the middle of nowhere. As he walked down the road, he saw an old house in the distance. It was the only house for miles around, so he decided to approach it. He knocked on the door, and to his relief, someone answered. The person who answered the door was a woman in her late 50s. She had wild eyes and a crazed look on her face. John immediately felt uneasy, but he was desperate for help, so he asked if he could use their phone. The woman told him that they didn't have a phone, but she invited him in and offered him some food. John reluctantly accepted the invitation, and he followed the woman inside. The inside of the house was dark and musty, and it smelled of mold and decay. There were strange symbols and pictures on the walls, and John couldn't understand what they meant. He also noticed that there were no windows in the house. As John sat down to eat, he noticed that the food was barely fit for a dog. It was stale bread and a strange stew that tasted like it had been sitting there for days. He tried to make conversation with the woman, but she didn't seem to understand what he was saying. She just stared at him with her wild eyes. As John finished his meal, he decided that he needed to leave. He thanked the woman and told her that he had to go. But as soon as he got up, he felt a sharp pain in the back of his head, and everything went black. When John woke up, he realized that he was in a different room. He was tied to a chair, and he couldn't move. He heard strange noises coming from the other side of the door, and he realized that there were other people in the house. John tried to free himself, but the ropes were too tight. He screamed for help, but nobody came. Hours passed, and John started to feel hungry and thirsty. He realized that he was completely at the mercy of this strange family. Days turned into weeks, and John's captivity became a living nightmare. The family would torture him mentally and physically, playing mind games and inflicting pain whenever they got the chance. They would speak in a language he couldn't understand, and John felt like he was losing his mind. But one day, the family made a mistake. They left the door to his room unlocked for just a moment, and John took his chance. He managed to break free from the ropes and ran as fast as he could, not looking back until he was miles away. John was traumatized by the experience. He couldn't believe that he had been held captive by a family of crazed individuals. He was grateful to be alive, but he knew that he would never be the same again. The experience had left a permanent scar on his psyche, and he would never take his freedom for granted again.